All right, back on the Turks. So you went from a really slow intro, JR, to the most cliched intro we've ever had on Fridays. Okay, nonetheless.
Always used to get played, at 5 p.m. in D.C. and I'm sure
in every market across the country, every DJ. Oh, working during the weekend, and then put it like a whoo whoo. Okay.
Right, 5 o'clock. Yeah. Lover Boy, by the way.
It's the one in D.C.
No, that's the band.
Okay,
Clown.
Never even knew. Okay, here's what I couldn't do: a music show.
No, you couldn't.
All right. So, listen, Bill O'Reilly went on The View. Everybody knows this. Joey Behar and, did I say Joey?
No, I mean, look, I couldn't get Alex, I still can't. It's a gap. Gian Pugliese.
Well, that's impossible.
But I can't get it. And his name is also Alexi. And I can't get it. I can't get it on the show a couple days ago, and I kept calling Joe Manchin in West Virginia John Meacham.
All right, so
Joey Behar.
And whoop-de-doo Goldberg.
Right.
Okay. Anyway, no, seriously. O'Reilly goes on The View, and he gets in a debate with Joey Behar and Whoopi Goldberg. They walk off, and it's because he said Muslims attacked us on 9/11.
And then when challenged on it, didn't back down.
Until finally, after they had left the set, and Barbara Walters said, hey, listen, you can't say that because it seems like you're saying it about all Muslims. Then he pretended to love Muslims and said, okay, well, look, if people were offended by that, I apologize. So you give him credit for that. He said it at the time. Now, of course, that's not going to stand. He's going to come back on his own show and tell us he didn't really mean that apology. And in fact, he meant, that these are the people who attacked us. So let's go to clip number 1 where he does exactly that.
How did we get here? Were we attacked by Japanese extremists? How did we get to this point? Now, the poll I cited was taken by CNN in August. About 70% of Americans, as I said, agree with me on the ground zero mosque issue. It's inappropriate. No one I know, no one wants to insult Muslims. But almost everybody I know is tired of the political correctness surrounding the 9/11 attack. The truth is that if moderate Muslims all over the world would stand with America against radical Islam, the terrorists couldn't exist. But obviously, that is not happening.
All right, obviously that is not happening, except for the dozens and hundreds of statements that Muslim leaders, certainly in this country and actually throughout the world, have put out, especially related to 9/11, but throughout all the different bombings of how we, incredible
condemned,
anger over what's happened here from these extremists, and boy, we're on America's side, we're all Americans, etc. All of those hundreds of statements are conveniently ignored because they didn't run them on television.
Thousands of statements.
You're 100% right. Second of all, the idea that, well, look, moderate Muslims, if they had done something, well, obviously there couldn't be extremist Muslims. Really? What did moderate Christians like Bill O'Reilly had actually acted? There wouldn't have been Tim McVeigh or Eric Rudolph or the abortion killer.
Or the Crusades.
Right? Okay. I mean, but even in today's...
but I mean, it's, he there's another clip about him drawing a distinction between this and Tim McVeigh, which the good news is he responded to it, which it means it was repeated enough that it finally got into his brain. But I mean, you don't stop, here's why you don't stop extremists. They're extreme.
Yeah.
They see things, they are extremely upset about things. Moderation doesn't temper Glenn Beck. Moderation is not going to temper people who believe that is their sole calling in life. And the only way that they can get to their version, the heaven that they want, is through killing infidels. Like you can't talk them out of it in that sense.
And think about it this way.
You can marginalize them, by the way, with policies that expand our influence in the Muslim world, which is, of course, constantly what we should be doing.
So think about it this way. There's hundreds of millions of Muslims in Indonesia, right? Now, what could they have done to stop a bunch of guys planning an attack from Afghanistan? Okay, no, it's you moderate Muslims in Indonesia. It's your fault for not stopping Osama bin Laden. How the hell would they have stopped them? That has nothing to do with anything. Now, if you're a Christian out there, how would you have stopped the guy who killed the abortion doctor, Dr. Tiller? How would you have stopped Scott Roeder, who was a fundamentalist Christian? How? I don't, that's crazy, right? But he says it as if like, it's the most obvious thing in the world. And of course, there's a point behind it, because he does want to smear Muslims. And he never paints all those guys as Christian extremists or Christians attacked us on Oklahoma, attacked Oklahoma City. Christians did the Olympic bombing. You never hear stuff like that because they don't want to drive that point home. They want to drive the point home that Muslims attacked us because they live and breathe on that hatred.
On fear and hatred. And the result of it, the joy in it, the success in it is only in the fear and hatred, because we're going to hear from Brian Kilmeade, too, from the Fox Morning Show. And he makes worse points than O'Reilly, in fact. But like what I want to ask Brian Kilmeade, and I'll start it then with O'Reilly, is, okay, all right, you win. Muslims attacked us, right? Now what? Like, what's your intent? What do you hope to gain? What's the success of that? You win that argument. And what?
Look, you know what? Let me do another analogy. So the British could have said the Irish attacked us, okay, when the IRA used to do bombings. Not the IRA, not the terrorists, not the extremists within Northern Ireland, but the Irish attacked us. Now, is that technically correct? Absolutely.
They were all Irish.
They were all Irish, right? So,
right. The Irish, not every Irishman attacks us, but everybody in the IRA is Irish.
Think about it.
That's the point Brian Kilmeade's about to make.
Right. So now, and that goes to Ben's, and then what point, okay? So, okay, everybody who attacked you is Irish, and then what? What do you do? Kill all the Irish?
Yeah, what do you want to do then? What's your
invade
point?
Ireland?
What have you succeeded in accomplishing? What's the next step?
Right. And of course, the reason that they do it is their next step is fear, hatred.
Yeah, there is no next step. Right. It's just that.
And as Radigan's going to explain in a little bit, it's to fuel more and more wars.
And the next step, I don't think Bill O'Reilly and Brian Kilmeade think that far ahead. I really don't. I don't think Bill O'Reilly wants another war. I don't know. But that's not what gets it. What gets him is, I succeed in a world where people who feel threatened come to me to assuage their fears. And that's it. And
I protect the folks.
I protect the folks, although from what? And of course, the obvious point is, and it will be true when I want to, first of all, can we run, let me look at the O'Reilly. We don't have a clip of it, but we have O'Reilly's statement, what else he said that we don't have.
About the Japanese.
About the Japanese. And you heard him with a brief little clip of that first. But Jesus, let's have the whole O'Reilly clip there. No one wants to insult Muslims. We heard him say that. But many are tired of the political correctness surrounding the 9/11 attack. And then earlier, right before that, in the same thought, he said, did we in World War II say we were attacked by Japanese extremists? No. We said we were attacked by Japanese. So we didn't hear that part. And it's exactly the point you were making about the Irish. But this is Bill O'Reilly saying it. We don't need a hypothetical. This clown said it. I don't even know that we need to explain it. The Imperial Japanese Army attacked us under orders from the Emperor of Japan. So you get to say the Japanese attacked us because the Japanese attacked us. And what you mean is the government of Japan. But there is no government of Muslim. And that's not who attacked us. And in fact, we know that because, as you said, Indonesia, and they're from Iran, and they're from Iraq, and they're from the United Arab Emirates, and Kuwait, and Qatar. And the people who attacked us weren't any of those people. So it's such a terrible point, and he just says it and dismisses, like we were using these crazy examples. We didn't need one. He did it.
Yeah, you know what I love about O'Reilly and these Fox guys is that when they make terrible points like that, Japanese extremists.
What are you talking about?
It was the official government of Japan, but he does it with like a smug smile, like, "I got you, didn't I?"
Yeah.
And I know O'Reilly writes out his talking points. To his credit, he writes out his show, right? And so as he,
I mean, that's great.
Okay, which not a lot of other Fox hosts do. Okay, so but anyway, as he,
well, he's a brilliant broadcaster. I never.
Right.
That's true. You see that every day you watch a show. Yes.
So as he wrote it out, he's like,
got one.
Got him.
Yeah.
He wrote it and thought, I has it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's but it's ludicrous. You're right. We don't say that German extremists invaded Poland either. We say the Germans did. because it's the government and their army.
So these guys probably would have wanted to attack
And
them.
it's so destructive. It's not just like brush it off. Like, I mean, they use this all the time. We hear it on Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Ask the military. That's who should decide. And of course, they are in the process of deciding. What they're going to decide is do away with the policy. We know that. So every time they mention the let's get the military brasses response, great, okay, fine, let's get it. They're on our side. Ask General Petraeus whether he wants you to say that Muslims attacked us on 9/11. Ask anybody who's running a squad in Afghanistan or Iraq whether you want to say that. You're putting Americans at risk when you say that. You'll turn around and blame us when we do anything, like say we should end the war, that somehow the idea that we want to get troops out of there puts them at risk. Trouble following that logic. But here you literally do, because you take those moderate Muslims who don't do anything for you, who've betrayed you and betrayed America by not reining in the terrorists, and you enable reasonable Muslims everywhere to think, oh, well, they hate us all, and they blame us all for this.
Now the thing is, I actually know Muslims, of course, because my family's Muslim. I'm gonna go ask him. You remember those little announcements they used to have back in the day, like as you were watching TV? It's 4 o'clock. Do you know where your child is? Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go up to them. It's 4 o'clock. What did you do to rein in Muslim extremists today?
Right. Yeah. It's that great Polish joke. It's 10 p.m. Do you know what time it is?
And these guys probably would have wanted to attack the Nation of Islam. They're like,
right.
Did Islam attack us? Mm-hmm. Okay, Nation of Islam, hello. All right, anyway, so now speaking of clowns on Fox, we go to Brian Kilmeade on Fox and Friends, and he's going to make a brilliant point here. Well, actually, as he's referencing the argument that O'Reilly had on The View, he thinks that his points are so much more sophisticated than the debate they had on there. Let's watch and judge to see if that's true.
That debate is almost like our debate on training wheels. That was our debate 7 weeks ago.
Sure.
And they can't handle the give and take of a debate. They were outraged that somebody was saying there's a reason there was a certain group of people that attacked us on 9/11. It wasn't just one person. It was one religion. Not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslims.
If you watch
He is so sophisticated.
He's very sophisticated.
Yeah, he knows how to debate. Yeah. All right. Do I have to explain how wrong that statement is?
No, you don't, but
But let's have at it a little bit. How about the Tamil Tigers? Okay, it is, of course, inconceivable that Brian Kilmeade would know what religion the Tamil Tigers are in Sri Lanka.
The Tamil Tigers are never going to keep me from laughing.
I know, because it sounds like they're a baseball team.
It sounds like they're a high school baseball team that just lost, like a tough one. They lost to Northside 17-14 last Friday night.
Right. Now, of course, by the way, the Tamil Tigers in reality are known for the suicide belt. They're the ones who came up with the suicide belt, and before any Muslim did. And yes, Brian, let me educate you, they are predominantly Hindu. But interestingly enough, there are also some Christian Tamils.
Are Hindus totally different than Muslims?
It's a good question that Kilmeade might not necessarily know the answer
He really might not, yeah.
Right. I mean, and then, of course, the IRA, I believe they were Catholic largely. Were they or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
how about the ETA in Basque territory, as they would say, in Spain and France?
Muslims.
Oh, they are, huh?
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would be also quite surprising, right? Let alone Tim McVeigh, let alone Scott Roeder,
the
and
1970s
Eric Rudolph.
Italian terrorists, the Red Brigade, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, well,
obviously
Muslim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. All of them. I mean, the amazing thing about Kilmeade is that he says it with that smile on his face like, gotcha. like he just made a brilliant point. I think that guy is like fundamentally dumb.
No, look at it.
Like somebody had to sit him down and explain to him, hey, Brian, that was a massive error, right?
Yeah.
And then he's like, why?
Right. No, yeah, look at him. Come on. He doesn't even shave. His hair looks fake. I'm totally, I believe you can totally judge a man by his hair. By the way, Anna told me that you make fun of me in fixing my hair.
What? What?
By the way, but I mean, it's like, what am I supposed to do? Pretend I don't? I do it like 80 times a day.
Right. So, and by the way, Bill Shine, who is one of the Fox News' senior vice president of programming, pulled Kilmeade aside and said, look, dude, you're going to have to apologize for that on Monday. And he said, I'm not speaking for Brian, but he told the press, Brian will have a statement on that on Monday.
Right.
Okay?
Right, that someone else will write.
Yes, and that Brian will begrudgingly read. By the way, this was not a one-time slip of the tongue for Brian Kilmeade. Here he is on his radio show saying, well, literally the exact same thing. Clip number 3.
Muslim extremists, Al-Qaeda, blew up those buildings, blew up the Khobar Towers, blew up the Cole, blew up the embassies, tried to blow up Times Square, tried to blow out a plane, the shoe bomber, the Times Square bomber, the underwear bomber. They had one thing in common. They are all extremists, and they are all Muslims. Not every Muslim's an extremist, a terrorist, but every terrorist is a Muslim. You can't avoid that fact. And that is ridiculous that we got to keep defining this. And the people that equate Timothy McVeigh with the Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization, which is growing, and a threat that exists.
And by the way, he didn't finish the thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
But by the way, they're an organization, Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization. That's right, they are. They're an organization that engages in terror tactics to achieve their ends. So he just contradicted his own point, by the way, doesn't he? So you're right. That's the organization that we're supposed to be going after. That's the organization that we're concerned with.
Yeah. You know, look, I'm going to bring up terrorists that you're not allowed to bring up. And this was a long time ago, right? But in the 1940s, there was 2 groups in the Middle East called Irgun and the Stern Gang, right? And they were terrorist organizations, and they blew up the hotel in what is now Israel. But
there were no civilians injured in any of this,
except for the 45 who were killed, right? So, and
were they really civilians?
You know, they were in a hotel. You never know. Anyway, so and they did a string of bombings. They did, and look, the unfortunate part of that was that it worked, right? And it wasn't the only thing that worked. Of course, there was a hell of a lot of other factors, but the British wanted to get the hell out of Palestine, right? And they're like, okay, have at it, right? And so, unfortunately, that encouraged a lot of people. But so, if you said, well, you know, not all Jews are terrorists, but
every terrorist is a Jew.
I mean, it'd be crazy, but I don't know. Look, it goes.
You don't have to go back. I mean, go back further. Go back to the Revolutionary War. How do you think we won? They had the standing army. They had the weapons. What do you think we did? We surprise attacked them. We hid in the hills and came out and ambushed them and shot them. And if we could have figured out a way to blow them up easier, we would have done that, and we should have. And, you know, after the Nazis invaded Poland and Eastern Europe and set their plans to dominate all of Europe, what do you think the French resistance did?
Yeah.
You know? What do you think Inglourious Bastards is about? You know, they burned, I mean, granted, I understand it's fake, but the idea is we're cheering them because that was a tactic taken. A lot of civilians killed in that fake fire. And obviously the Revolutionary War, and then to use a guy who you guys, Brian Kilmeade, would love to call people who engaged in tactics of terrorism, the Cubans, Fidel Castro, Che, they were terrorists. That's what they did, committed acts of terror to get their way politically.
Right. And then, by the way, there was also terrorists that were fighting them, including a guy we caught. I don't know if you remember this story during the Bush years, and he had plotted to blow up a plane full of people. Forget whether he actually did or not. And we had him in Miami, and we were like, yeah, no, we're not going to extradite him.
Yeah, because he was on our side.
Because he was a terrorist on our side.
Right.
Let alone the Mujahideen al-Khalq. How do you like that
nice
Middle Eastern pronunciation of it? Which is a terrorist group that is against Iran, which Don Rumsfeld financed.
Yeah.
So it's very convenient. Anyway, one last Kilmeade one, because we have it, and he makes yet another stunningly stupid point. He's going to talk to Geraldo here, and Geraldo's going to disagree with him, which is a good thing. Clip number 4.
Al-Qaeda attacked us on 9/11.
Right. Al-Qaeda
would
attacked
you
us on
say
9/11.
Would you say Muslim extremists are at war with America?
Would I say Muslim extreme? Yes, definitely.
Right.
I think there is a war between an asymmetrical war between the West,
Do you think we have a
led
right
by America, and Muslim extremists?
from what we've seen and from what we've seen from the Khobar Towers to the Cole bombing to the embassy bombings to the Times Square, the shoe bombing, do you think Americans have a right to look at moderate Muslims and say, show me you're not one of them? Because that's really where we're at right now as a country.
Are we asking for a declaration of loyalty? I think that is a very slippery slope, Brian. If you start going down that road, you know, again, what are we going to do? Are we going to say to Zionists here in this country, Zionists like myself, that who do you back, Israel or the United States? Show us that you're not, you know, a knee-jerk pro-Israeli lobbyist. You know, if the United States national security interests disagree with Israel, you know, what side are you on? Are we going to demand loyalty oaths from them? It's just, you can't do
not
that.
demanded.
You know, Geraldo, look, he's on the right side of this argument because there's a crazy person on the other side, but it's like the shift in the country to the right, and so the people in the center get accused of being crazy liberals. I mean, Geraldo's wrong on a number of points there. Forget the Zionism stuff. We'll leave all that out. I don't like the slippery slope argument, except when it's a slippery slope. But what Brian Kilmeade needs to be told there is not, I don't know, loyalty oaths. Real quick, what do loyalty oaths do, by the way? No, you signed an oath. You can't go back on it. You know, suppose somebody who signed a loyalty oath commits an act of terrorism against the government. I bet we prosecute him for the terrorist act, not the violation of the loyalty oath.
That's my guess.
I'm just guessing. So here's what Brian Kilmeade needs to be told then. No, we don't have that right. And that's a crazy point to make. You come from Muslims. Convince me that you're not a Muslim extremist. I mean, and so that's what Brian Kilmeade wants. And so the same question really applies in this case that we asked earlier. Okay, great. We have a right to do that. And what? Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's ask them all. And then we'll win. Win what, man?
It's maddening, man. It's like, you know, JR is the most Christian among us, right? So, JR, I'm just going to, real quick, I'm just following the Kilmeade standard here. Prove to me that you're not with Scott Roeder, the abortion doctor killer. Prove it to me.
I was looking for the Jesus. Jesus.
Yeah.
That's all you need. No, it's straightforward, straight down the middle. You just say it. I mean, because the thing is, I think the thought process with people like this is, you can't say you're for a certain kind of belief, because then, if you're not, you know, you're going down.
I don't know. I don't understand what the game plan is. I mean, he doesn't have one. You're right. He's dumb. What are we getting at? What's your goal, man?
He's just saying, look, man, we don't like Muslims,
Right.
and we're right to not like them, and because because in our stupid, silly minds, they attacked us. And so just get off our back already with this political correctness and let us hate the frickin' Muslims.
Let us hate the Muslims because you come to us when it's time to hate the Muslims. And that's good. And that I'm providing a comfortable place which can enhance sort of our power, our media power, not like power take over the world, but can enhance our power when you come to us when you're afraid. And the way to get unafraid is really complicated. It takes a long time, and there's people on different sides, and they have different interests at different times, and people who might help us in one thing, we are opposed to in another. It's a complicated world. Forget it. It's beyond me, Brian Kilmeade. So here's the thing. They're dangerous, and they're coming for you, and we provide a haven for that.
Okay, look, when we come back, we're going to do Glenn Beck. He's going to outdo them all. It's an old clip, but when you're here, you're going to be like, oh, wow, that's okay. Nobody beats Glenn Beck. And then later in the program, Dylan Radigan rips these guys apart with an excellent set of points. But one quick thing, though, here is Brian Kilmeade's an idiot. There's a million idiots in the country, right? Who put him on air, right? That's the guy, okay?
Yeah.
Who put Beck on air? Who put O'Reilly on air? Who picked the idiots to go into those places? Roger Ailes did, okay? And so Roger Ailes is the guy with the plan.
Right.
And
with Rupert Murdoch.
Certainly,
Yeah.
the owner, Rupert Murdoch. All right, let's come back and give you back, okay?
Like that. And I'm riding like that. Boy, I'm riding like that.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk, Ben, and Anna with you. Oh, by the way, we have Representative Grayson on the program in the next hour. Hello. Goodbye. Okay, should be fun. All right. So now Anna's got a lot of great stories for us in this hour, but actually we were just talking about Fox, so we got one more Fox clip for you guys. Bill O'Reilly is going to do his Pinheads and Patriots segment. There's going to be dancing involved. It is unfortunate, hence we thought we'd subject you to it. Let's watch.
Tonight, Pinheads and Patriots. Recently on Fox and Friends, Vanilla Ice, the rapper, appeared. In anticipation of that, there was this.
All right, Laura, come on, it's nighttime. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. I sit back with my brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I glow. To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage and wax a chump like a candle.
Are the ladies pins or Patriots for that sequence? I'm voting Patriot.
Oh,
they look pretty good to me. They look a lot better than Vanilla Ice.
Yeah, I bet they look pretty good too.
How is that patriotic in any way, shape, or form? That was the epitome of the white man's lower lip bite.
Totally. Is that Laura Ingraham, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what impressed me. That made me want Laura Ingraham more.
Oh, really? Why?
I already want Laura Ingraham.
Uh-huh.
Because, you know, like it's like the segment in Us Magazine. They're just like us. You know, look, Ashton Kutcher buys avocados too. You know, and there was Laura Ingraham, which I can't help but do when I dance. Like as soon as I start dancing, I'm like,
so you got the
just
white
slowly,
sheet.
and then all of a sudden you're like,
You know,
and then you walk out and then you go up to a girl. You know,
Right.
and you're like, hey, how's it going?
Here's what's not going to work. That.
Right.
And I must be slightly white myself because I catch myself doing the underbite too, and when I do, I'm like,
But why do we do it? Like, what does it do? Is it save embarrassment? Is it what we do when we're like a little embarrassed or something?
and then I think there needs to be a conversation about who's worse between those two.
Right.
And I think
Definitely, no, I think it's the other girl.
Really?
She's
No.
a spaz.
Yeah, what does she do? What is
Although
that?
her mouth is better. She's at least smiling. No, she looks like she's you know rocking to the oldie. What is it? What did Richard Simmons do?
Sweating to the oldies.
See, she looks like she's sweating to the oldies.
And she's a little fist pumping too. She's a little Jersey
Yeah.
Shore in there.
Like she's.
But I'm going with Laura Ingraham. No, I think Laura Ingraham was worse.
Really?
Yeah, I thought
maybe
she was really.
worse, maybe that's why I continue. I mean, I'm still wildly attracted to Laura Ingraham.
On a sexual level, I don't necessarily disagree with you. In fact,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I do agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, she's a good broadcaster, and she can be funny occasionally.
Uh-huh.
You know, I mean, she's horrid.
Yeah, as a person.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, sure.
All right, now it's, you know what, TYT poll. Mm-hmm. Who was worse, Gretchen Carlson
By the way,
or
TYT
Laura Ingraham?
poll, who was worse, Gretchen Carlson or Laura Ingraham, is not a scientific poll.
Yeah, I love how O'Reilly puts that. Like, oh, really? We didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
We thought this was a scientific poll about who's a pinhead or a patriot. Okay, but it turns out it's not. All right, so TYT poll. You know what? Let's do this. Let's have a little bit of fun. Let's do the poll on Facebook because there's an actual. We could do a real poll and we can get your numbers, etc. And we'll tell you the numbers later. Okay.
By the way, we should.
We're probably not going to tell them the numbers later.
Let's
Let's keep it real.
Every poll that you guys do should say totally scientific.
That's funny. Yeah. By the way, I don't think we've ever told you the numbers.
Exactly. Maybe once. And the only reason why we shared it is because I was right in the poll. So I wanted to rub it in your face.
But nonetheless.
Put one of these pinhead patriots out here in charge of bringing the numbers to your attention.
That's a great point. And furthermore,
I mean, a bunch of them, they sit around most of the time. They could look at the Facebook account.
Yeah, these guys, nowhere near patriots. No. Okay, pinheads, every last one of them.
Well,
okay.
Mexican, black.
JR with that hat today, perhaps looking slightly like a pin.
Don't forget the suspenders.
Okay. Here he goes to regulate.
I'm calling it nerdy chic. You know, you gotta bring the suspenders, but then make it. You know, you gotta bring it out right.
Right now.
I'm trying. We're working with something here.
Okay. No. Yes, we're obviously working with something.
Real quick, I don't want to get too side. What's with the hat? You look like you're a character in The English Patient, except you're black.
If you had dreadlocks ever in your life, which of course you can,
right?
I mean, maybe. Yeah. But it's the only hat you can really get over your hair. You want me to put a baseball hat on?
Yeah,
maybe?
but it's like, what's the? Yeah, but I mean, that's come on. Is there a special? Is that a kind of hat? Is that a Kangol hat? Kegel?
It's not a Kangol hat.
Kegel sounds like some sort of Jewish soup.
No, I think it's the exercises that women do to tighten their.
Oh, right, isn't it? Okay,
yeah.
But only Jewish women.
Only Jewish women.
Right? Okay. All right. So, now let's get on with other nonsense news.
All right, let's talk about Yale and their misogynistic fraternity brothers. The chapter of Delta Kappa Epsilon in Yale is in a lot of trouble because of an initiation ceremony that they had. They had people who wanted to join the fraternity go in front of the Women's Center and chant offensive things, like no means yes and yes means anal. Bad.
Okay. All right. We actually have video of that. It's real quick. It's dark, but you'll hear the chant. Let's watch.
No means yes. Yes means anal. No
to yell out boner?
No, louder. Okay. That's how these guys at Yale roll. Like, oh, that's hot. Boner!
These guys all got into Yale.
You know, if I'm not mistaken, this is Deke, okay? And if I'm not mistaken, you know who were Deke brothers? The Bushes. Because I knew a bunch of guys at Deke.
It's DK, yeah.
You're right. I knew a bunch of guys at Deke and at Penn, and they were all so proud. They're like, oh, you know who's a Deke brother? Yeah! Bushes, yeah. No means whatever. Okay. Now, the thing is, Ben and I were discussing this earlier. Anno, let's run it by you, right? We think if they said...
We think it's half funny.
Right. And if they had said...
I mean, it's clever. It's college kids. It's dumb, but it's clever.
If they had said no means no, yes means anal, would that have been funny?
I think that's flat out funny.
Yeah, that could be funny.
Yeah.
But,
Because
this is such an absurd conversation, and I feel like I have to like walk on eggshells around it because, of course, what they're saying is so wrong and it's so offensive and it's so terrible. But given that, yes, if they said no means no, yes means anal, then it's a little funny.
Right, because they what they've done is they're young and they haven't refined their senses of humor yet. Right. But the key is so once you've established, the problem is going to the women's center and saying no means yes, then you've lost the whole back half of the joke. It's like Michael Richards. Yeah. Okay, I don't really care what your routine was after you use the N-word on the black guy, you know?
All right, now if you were not convinced though yet that this was over the line, they're in college, well, give us the other part.
But by the way, the no means yes is just flat out. It's like, come on.
No, it's
the worst. It's the
instantly, you've started out hideous, but they're going to make it worse.
So how did they make it worse? Oh. They didn't make it worse. There was another fraternity that got in trouble back in 2008.
No. Okay, so let me explain it. Okay. Then they make it worse by chaining, my name is Jack, I'm a necrophiliac, I fuck dead women. Okay, they chanted that. Okay, so if you weren't convinced already that that chant was a little off bounds, okay, I think the I fuck dead women chant will pretty much put it over the top.
I think that the no means yes is the worst thing they do here because that's so stupid that it's not. Yeah.
But here's my argument. Okay, when you combine them all together, it's fairly hideous.
Yeah, you're just a giant tool with a total. They just haven't gotten it yet. Whoever came up with the back half of the first chant is on something. They're on to comedy. But first of all, I guess necrophiliac and Jack.
Right.
My name is Jack. I'm a necrophiliac. No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, and even if it did, I F dead women doesn't rhyme with anything.
Obviously, that's really out.
Okay, these guys, they don't know what they're doing on many different levels. You're going to be shocked to find out that Yale's Women's Center was outraged.
Also, they did it to the Women's Center.
Right.
Oh, God, I forgot that part. Jeez and Lord mercy, these... Okay. Guilty. They, of course, called it hate speech, and the Women's Center said this is, quote, an active call for sexual violence, which, I know in their minds they're, doing a stupid frat thing and they're joking or whatever they're doing, right? But that's as pretty close to an active call for sexual violence as it gets.
Yeah, it is. Look, if I were a dean at Yale, they'd be out.
Oh, wow.
They'd be out immediately.
Hang and judge, you're not playing.
No, I'm not playing because, look, what they're doing is serious, okay? They think it's funny, they think it's just a joke, but what they're advocating for by these chants is, as you said, hideous. And I wouldn't want, as a dean, I wouldn't want Yale to be identified with douchebags like this.
No, I wouldn't either, but I wouldn't throw them out.
I think I would. I would throw them out.
I'd really come down hard on the fraternity. And every guy I could find out who was in it, I'd be like, you're on some sort of, you're on some sort of probation, and we're watching you.
Yeah, I'm between you guys. Yeah. At least the guy who came up with and led the chant, the fraternity brother who made them do it, or they didn't have to do it, by the way, who told them to do it, I would suspend them for at least a semester. Okay, because look, this does encourage misogyny. I mean, it's serious. Yes. I mean, I know they think they're joking and stuff, but underneath the joke, there's serious misogyny.
Right, so I agree, but I don't think they see it, so you got to explain it to them, and you don't explain it to them by throwing them out. Mm-hmm. But if they do anything like this again, you boot them.
I mean, if they call for women to,
if they make another necrophilia joke.
or another
out.
rape joke,
Yeah.
then they're out, right? Look, and I'm not predisposed to, because just because they were attempting humor, I guess, in their minds. So me, I give a wide pass to that. But boy, they blew past that wide pass in a major way here.
They did.
Yeah.
Right. And what happens?
And Yale has a history with this, which is why I think that there needs to be some sort of discipline so it doesn't happen again. Back in 2008, there was another fraternity, Zeta Psi, that took a picture in front of the Women's Center, and they held a sign that said, "We love Yale sluts."
These are our future leaders, ladies and gentlemen.
Go to Yale. Like, I got it. It's offensive. But, like, I keep being struck by its lack of clarity. Like,
Nicely done on the made-up word.
yeah, thank you. Like, what? You guys go to Yale.
Be a little.
We love Yale sluts? That's what you got? I mean, no wonder that everybody writer at The Simpsons went to Harvard. They'll do better than this. They're inventing Facebook, and you're chanting, "We love Yale sluts."
That's no good. I mean, at least make it rhyme. We're nuts for Yale sluts?
There you go.
Something,
At least having a conversation.
Okay, we're trying to help a brother out here. All right, so look, in the context of all of this, they have ironically proven Christine O'Donnell right. Because she did the ad saying that she was proud not to go to Yale.
Oh, I didn't miss that ad, yeah.
She said, "I didn't go to Yale." Booyah. Right? And it turns out she was right. Look at the jackasses going to Yale.
It's true.
And when you throw in the, George W. Bush in there, the flip side is the Clintons also went to Yale. That's the other thing, man. Almost everybody went to Yale.
A lot of people went to Yale.
That are in politics, that are successful. It's unbelievable. All right, maybe that's what we screwed up. All right, look, let's take a quick break here, real quick. Come back with Chilean miners. Amazing stories about the Chilean miners, and I won't be MSNBC Jake. I got heat for that. I didn't think I deserved it. I'll explain that too. Okay. All right, come right back. All right, back on TYT. So now, when I was on MSNBC, we were covering the Chilean miners for doing breaking news. Now that was actually breaking news. That was compelling. Like, we've done a lot of breaking news while I was at MSNBC, which okay, I won't comment any further. Right?
All of it good and justified.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, very important.
You watch cable news, stuff happens immediately. That's why you tune in.
Right. But the Chilean miners was a very compelling story.
I never got tired of it. I mean, until like now with the affairs. That I got tired of.
So then we put up one of those clips on YouTube, and I got two forms of criticism. One was that we were concentrating too much on the wives and the mistresses and stuff. First of all, let me be clear. That was me, okay? Like, everybody else was like, not too much. I was like, what are you talking about? The guy's number 21 came out on my watch. That's the guy with the wife and the mistress.
Right.
You're crazy if you don't talk about that. That's, of course, super interesting, okay? Like, I'm not above what people are interested in. We talked about that on the show.
We did.
Right?
How sad was it that she stayed home, though?
The wife?
Yeah.
But look,
but that's interesting, right?
I thought that was interesting. I wanted to know.
I thought it was interesting if, like, women found out while they were down there about these mistresses, right?
They did.
They did.
They found out at a vigil.
Right, some did. But this guy lived with this woman.
No, I know, but apparently for some reason the wife had never knew, even though he'd been with the mistress for 10 years.
Right, but he lived.
Oh, that makes it less interesting. I didn't know.
Right,
he
he
was
lived
with
there.
But I said that during the broadcast. I said there was a little schwang wang wang there because it turns out the mistress and the guy has been together for 10 years.
I love how the media, including us, tries to make it a bigger deal than it really is. Like, for them, they're like, why is this a big deal?
No.
Like, I've been with this woman for 10 years.
And I almost literally said that on air, but still I got shit for it on YouTube. That's okay. It's fine. The part where the criticism was, I thought, really justified was, look, they said you should have done a story on why the mine collapsed in the first place and safety regulations and stuff.
Liberals.
And you know what? I should have thought of that, and I should have at least thrown a question in there about that at one of the points, and I didn't. But I appreciate that people said that because that's a good point. Okay? All right, now, having said that, we've got a new
Real quick, watching
Chilean.
the local news. We'll lead into this, watching the KNBC news here and getting a, can I criticize KNBC? Watching Channel 4 here in Los Angeles, and their whole tease is, was the guy coming out, number 21 coming out, hugging the woman, and and they say, You know, and when we come back, the Chilean miners, when one was released, he gave a hug to a woman. Was she his wife or mistress? Like, it was the day they were released. Like, it's just...
That's a great lead-in.
It's a great tease, but it's too much. It's too much. I mean, otherwise, it's a great tease, but again, you just further undermine the credibility of local news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I was totally guilty of that. and that, like I said, number 21 came out while I was on the air, so I was actually jazzed. I was like, win, score. Okay. Anyways, all right. So what's happening with the Chilean miners now?
All right. So the Chilean miners have been free for nearly 2 days now, and what's interesting about it is we haven't heard any television interviews from any of them. We haven't had any quotes from any of them. We have no idea. They've stayed quiet throughout this whole process. And it turns out that they are waiting until they figure out the right way to divide all of the earnings or all of the money that they get among one another. So let's say one Chilean miner makes more money than another Chilean miner. It won't matter because that wealth will be equally distributed among all 33 of them.
Okay, first of all, these guys sound like goddamn socialists. Okay?
No, but it's true. It's like a little, like an underground culture forced together, a small society. They're like, we don't need rich and poor. We're in this together.
You know what? Fox News is on this, okay? Right. And this will not be tolerated. This is Maoist crap.
You know what? It turns out the Chilean miners are totally un-American.
So now the thing is, it actually turns out that it's, of course, very smart. Because if one of them speaks out about what happened, it lowers the value of their whole story. It certainly lowers the value of anybody else's story, right? So they're all waiting to do the story together. And now there's a tremendous amount of interest in it. And from their perspective, and almost from anybody's perspective, a tremendous amount of money involved in getting that story out. And they figure, hey, if we all stick together, we can all get rich together. So it's not that they're socialists in that sense. It's that, hey, you know what? They're together, they're stronger. And they're smart about it. And it may, God bless their hearts. That's the right way to go about it. And if one of them was a douchebag, he'd ruin it for the rest of them. And,
they've stayed quiet so far. No one's broken the promise.
Yeah, and you know what? Staying in an underground cave for 69 days together, that might give you that sense of camaraderie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wish we all had that kind of camaraderie. That's how Glenn Beck would have done it.
I got that.
Okay. What was the day they came out? That was Wednesday, October 12th?
They came out on Tuesday. They started coming out Tuesday night, our time.
So
I was watching TV like 9:30 is when I saw the second guy come out at about a little before 9.
Okay.
2 o'clock, yeah.
Right, but they were all out by Wednesday, end of Wednesday.
Yes,
so,
right.
Okay, so that's October 13th that they came out. I wish we all could have an October 13th mentality. But it's not going to last. We'll do an October 13th march later in Copiapo. Okay. All right, what's next?
All right, I read a blog written by someone named Toby today, and it was posted on Alternet. And the title of the blog is The Year My Girlfriend Was a Prostitute and I Was Her Pimp.
Already having fun.
Okay. No, this was a fascinating article because, first of all, Toby, the writer, doesn't reveal that she's a girl until halfway through the article. So you're thinking that this pimp is a man, right?
But it turns out it's a girl.
It's a girl. Later on, even later in the article, you find out that she's a trans woman. So she used to be a man, but now she's a woman.
Which one, Toby? Or
Toby, the writer, and the pimp of the prostitute.
So as I'm reading this story, and I'm thinking like, oh, you let your girlfriend be a pimp. Oh, okay. Or you're a pimp for your girlfriend. I'm like, oh, that's kind of questionable. Oh, you're a chick. Oh, awesome, right? And then they're like, transgender woman. I was like, oh, okay. Now my feelings are confused. I'm kind of, trans-aroused. I'm stuck in between. I don't know what's going on.
Right.
Okay.
No, it was interesting how Toby decided to break it down because, yeah, you go through all these different emotions as you're reading the blog. But look, the most interesting part about the blog is she's arguing that being a pimp is a felony in the United States, right? And she's saying, look, I was my girlfriend's pimp, but I was really just security for her. Like, she would drive her girlfriend to the appointments. She would be parked outside to make sure that her girlfriend
Toby,
is safe.
the writer, is the transgendered one.
Yeah, the transgendered pimp
The prostitute
is the girlfriend.
Is just a girl.
It's just a girl.
Yeah.
I mean, a
continue
genetic girl.
Yeah, you can continue to be aroused by her all you like. Okay.
Got it.
All right. And have at it, Hoss. I'm just saying whatever you're into. Okay. So, and I was wondering pre or post op, but Toby didn't address that. Anyway, so then it is a compelling story, and he said, "Look, my girlfriend decided that she needed to make money, and I agreed with her. She was on tough times, etc. And so I helped assist her out." Right? And it was a fascinating story in that it was a little heartwarming, right?
Yeah.
Because then she would come out of the tricks, and then her girlfriend was there to pick her up,
Right.
and they would drive a little bit, and they'd stop, and they'd hug it out.
Right. Toby described it as, as soon as my girlfriend's adrenaline, wore off, we would hug. And it was almost like a ritualistic thing. They would do it after every single appointment that she had with a client or a customer. So that was sweet because Toby described it as the one element of reality in what her girlfriend was doing. Like that was the one part that actually felt real.
Yeah, and it told her it's okay, everything's fine now, and you're safe, and and here's someone who cares about you, right? And then of course there were some stories about the interactions she had with some of the Johns, and they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you out of this mess and stuff," and she's like, "What mess?" Like my girlfriend's downstairs, and then they'd like try to nickel and dime her on the fee or whatever. And then,
which is incredible.
And they'd want to do it without a condom. She's like, no, you're the mess. Okay, you're not the one getting me out of the mess. But she did it for a year, and then she was like, this isn't for me. But I found the understanding between the couple fascinating, and like I said, slightly touching.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. They love each other, and they're figuring out a way to make it work. It doesn't surprise me. It's a nice story. I mean, it's a nice story. It's somebody so broke that they have to be a whore. It's not the nicest story, but I mean, yeah, they care about each other, and that's.
By the way, this is the kind of story that we, like us libs, find heartwarming. It would make every head at Fox News explode against the wall.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not.
Like, I mean, if their head didn't explode with the transgendered woman dating the other woman, and then being the pimp, but then we find it kind of like, oh, touching or whatever.
Right.
They care for each other. That's when O'Reilly's like.
Yeah, it's also it's dangerous, but it's nice that what's nice was the way of writing, the openness of writing about it. That was nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, if my girlfriend came to me and said, "Oh, it's not a big deal, but I'd like to be a hooker for a year," I'm not sure I'd be as understanding as lib as I am.
Yeah,
no,
that was
but
another amazing part of that blog.
If she did, and you were determined to stay with her, you'd want to make sure she was protected.
Oh yeah, I get that, but
I don't mean sexually protected, although that too. But you'd want to make sure.
No, I know. I just don't think I'm that open-minded, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and nobody is. I mean, very few people are, and it doesn't come up a lot.
So I was thinking of going into prostitution,
Yeah.
and I was wondering if you'd be my pimp. Just, I mean, you're my girlfriend, so. No, my sense is that you would not be okay with your boyfriend going into prostitution.
Well, no, of course not. That's crazy.
Okay, straight or gay? Would that make a difference for you? He says, "Look, I'm hitting women. I mean, and they're paying me. Okay, that's how good I am. You want to drive me there? Are you into it or no?"
No.
If you were
Gay
a
or straight.
prostitute, would your boyfriend provide you security?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't think so.
0%.
Yeah,
0%.
you'd be in charge of your own security. Like, yeah, because
Yes.
he's got stuff to do on Fridays.
You're the worst.
Just go on.
All right. Let's move on to Taiwan. Prostitution is now legalized in Taiwan. Well, government officials in Taiwan are considering legalizing it, but it's headed toward that direction.
I thought you were like, prostitution is now legalized in Taiwan. Well, government officials can be with prostitutes, but nobody else.
Right, and it's not quite legal, but on the other hand, they're in charge. Right? So now, look, it's prostitution. It turns out was prevalent in Taiwan anyway.
Right.
A shocking news. I didn't know. Turns out it's prevalent in a lot of countries. Huh, right?
No, but look, I love this story because a couple weeks ago we did the story about Canada legalizing prostitution. Now Taiwan is finally admitting to the fact that there are prostitutes in their country and they're going to have to deal with it.
I like it that the Taiwan's government plans to allow sex workers to set up small businesses.
Yeah, they're very specific about this, and
You don't want a prostitution corporation.
no. Well, actually, if you had one, they'd take over the government soon,
Yeah.
and next thing you know, all the politicians would be whores. Too late.
I hope you
Anyway,
didn't mean the female ones, because that's offensive.
yes, no, I only meant the male ones as whores. Okay, anyway, so you know how many people worked in the sex-related industry in Taiwan?
Oh, can I
Dozens.
tell the number?
Yeah, go ahead.
600,000.
Wow.
That's a lot of people.
For a
but
small country?
It says, but that's put in the whole industry. So that counts like guys who clean up afterwards. So it's not,
Oh, jeez.
it's not entirely fair.
So now, by the way, the new law says, as Ben was saying, three to five girls at a time in like these little mini brothels, right?
Right.
And that's it. You go to 6 girls, you're in a world of trouble. It's such bullshit because nobody cares anyway. The girls are at the clubs, okay? Like in Taiwan, the way apparently that it works, which made me think like, why did I not go to a club in Taiwan when I was younger? But apparently the girls are already at the club, like you're dancing, hey, oh, hey, how you doing?
Right, but you know, it's like Vegas. You're like, why is this fairly attractive girl talking to me?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, you're right. It'd be terrible because
Yeah.
then you go back, you think you got lucky because you're that kind of idiot, right? And then she's like, all right, $100.
Right.
If you're lucky, that's probably cheap. But anyway, you're like, what? I thought you were into me.
You know, this sounds, I've told the story before, but it sounds like it's me. But when you hear the amount of money, you'll know that it's not me. The friend of mine who went to Vegas and met the girl, and he was there for a very specific task, and he met the girl, he's playing blackjack, spending a lot of money, and she's all over him, and they're making out in the elevator, and they get to the room, and he's giving her like almost $1,000 to bet. He's winning, and he's just giving her money, and she's betting. And they get up to and they get off the elevator, and she's like, I'm working. And they've spent like 2.5 hours together, like groping each other, and so they're just making out in the elevator, and he's got like $600 in chips, right? He's trying. He's like, here, like we're gonna finish this. Just here are the chips. I don't care. And then he wakes up, and he was there with $12,000 to give to a guy, and she took everything.
Okay, that's
The worst story. It's totally true.
Oh my
Yeah.
God,
That's
was a very interesting
I don't know this
story.
guy well, but I know it to be true. I heard it from him directly.
that's what you would call a disaster.
It's a disaster.
Epic fail.
Because on top of all that, it wasn't his money.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So he's got to pay that back.
Okay,
Which
now-
he did.
All right, look, let's take a quick break here. We've got more epic disasters on the way for you. Seriously, there's like at least 2 epic fails in here, and we haven't even gotten to the controversies yet. So,
Yeah, we got to get to one of the controversies.
yes, we will. All right, so when we come back, Young Turks.